Welcome back to Tega'S Corner. I am Tega Oguntuyi, and today I brought one of my most senior, I wanted to say most reverend, but most senior colleagues in the industry, Bode Oguntuyi, to talk about the never-ending drama of the NFF and what is going to happen to the Super Eagles come 2015 concerning their qualifiers. So, Bode Oguntuyi, thank you for coming.
Tega, well, it's a pleasure.
Okay, it is.
It's not usual to see a pretty woman doing sports, so.
It's not usual you see an intellect like you on my set. But let's take it from the beginning of this NFF problem. So a lot of people want to know, what was the genesis of the Aminu Maigari-led board problem?
It depends on who you are speaking with.
Yeah.
Some will say it's the incident at the World Cup. Some will say it's the ambitions of Aminu Maigari, and some will say it's the rumors before the World Cup that somebody high in government had pointed at Chris Giwa to be the next NFF president. But I mean, everything came together really at the FIFA World Cup in Brazil, because then we had heard. Let me take it from there. That somebody high in government, the number 3 man, had picked Chris Giwa and taken to the president that this is the next NFF president, while the current board
was still in place. Yeah.
And then that was the play that led to the appointment of the minister. That's
Dr. Tamuno Danagogo.
Yeah, Danagogo. And so when Danagogo showed up at the World Cup, in the first instance he was not met at the airport. Usually, you know the way it is. And when a senior official travels to a state or to wherever their junior associates are, they're supposed to meet him at the airport and pick him up. That didn't happen for Danagogo. And then he got to the stadium. He could see officials of the NFF sitting in the VIP corner, you know, because they are the ones that FIFA recognizes. Yes. However, they are the ones that have the access to the VIP stand passes. Yes. And they didn't give Danagogo one. No. So he was seated at the VIP section.
And he was seated with the regular people.
And he was like, okay, this is your show. When we get to my village,
yes,
then it will be
my show.
And so from that point on, it went bad quickly.
Okay, so I know the plan was to put Chris Giwa in there. At some point, I didn't even have a problem with Chris Giwa becoming NFF president because I don't really mind what he's done with Giwa FC. The same way I also think Amaju Pinnick has done well for Delta State when it comes to sports. So I think those people that have those kind of positive progression in their career or for their states should be able to run nationally. However, why not just wait for the elections that were supposed to happen on the 26th of August and then push your agenda? Yes.
Now, you've got to understand the way Nigerian football works. Every time Aminu Maigari talks about football, he mentions the football family. And when he says football family, there are factions within that family, there are alliances within that family, and there are power blocks within that family. For instance, I can tell you that between Chief Taiwo Ogunjobi and Amazi Chegulam, they have the Congress, that is the voting block that puts people in office. They have it sewn up. So between the two of them, they have the power block that delivers the votes. However, they are outside of the system. Remember, they are part of the old administration when Sonny Lulu was in charge. And they were the key men. They are the part behind Lulu. And so the football family have their own agenda. The minister
has his own agenda,
and the government had their own agenda. Now, why did I separate these three? The minister was going to was going to use the playbook of the government. The government always appoints or nominates whoever will be the next NFF chairman, president. All the members of the executive committee, they come from the different power blocks depending on what you can trade.
Yes.
You know? And so it's always clear. The government will give you 4 candidates, and either the first or the last name on that list will be the next. We know it. It's been like that. Yeah, because you know, once they have finished the vote, just say, look, this is the next president, vote for him. And that's what everybody
will do.
But in this instance, remember that Ogunjobi was forced out of the last And between that time and now, because all of us defer to FIFA, it is what happens in the Congress that FIFA recognizes. And Ogunjobi understood this perfectly. So all he did was to keep working the Congress, or those that will be the voting bloc, over the past 4 years, knowing that come this time,
yes,
we have to go back to the Congress.
Yes,
and when that happens,
you have to refer to him.
You have to defer to me, no matter what the government says. And so, smart man, he simply walked around getting that bloc to lean towards him, and he has that pretty much sewn up tight now. And so, whatever the government was going to play, whichever way, they had to come to him, because he had to be the one to okay whoever it is that the government will bring. But I don't think the
minister got the he didn't get the memo.
He didn't get that memo. And so you know that in all of this, nobody has mentioned Ogunjobi's name.
Yes, so far.
It's just that if you ask those things, they'll tell you that no matter where you push the elections, either Amanzi or Ogunjobi will win. Because when it became clear to Aminu Megari that it wasn't, I mean, there's a lot of story leading to that, but when it became clear to him that there was somewhere he was going to allow to come back,
yes,
to be the next NFF president, he tried to bring on Diko,
yes,
the LMC, but the Congress told him no way. The Congress told him no way because they had their own plan, queuing Ogunjobi.
Yes.
So now we are moving to another dimension entirely, because the next Congress will be in worry. But between now
and that day,
we are going to see a lot of things also coming up.
Okay.
But one thing I'm sure of and I know is that for anybody to emerge as NFF president, you have to deal with the Ogunjobi power block. You can't get out of it.
Interesting. So what happened on that day on 26th of August, when they were supposed to hold the Congress? FIFA had okayed that they were going to hold a Congress, but not an elective Congress.
Yeah.
But they went on to hold an election, and then some people were not present because they were taken by the DSS. What happened on that morning?
Now, the secretary to the federal government held a meeting with the key actors. That's the minister, Aminu Megari, and the members of the executive committee, because I've been, before that time there had been eruptions here and there,
yes,
from the World Cup, and because of what happened at the World Cup, and because of what the minister was planning, as soon as Megari landed from Brazil, it was picked up by DSS.
Yes,
that was the first throw of the dice, and then when it was released, and because of that, FIFA already started hearing rumblings. And they are wondering, why would the government agency get involved with the NFF president,
yes,
which is their own? So that when those rumblings started, and Nigeria we had the women under 20
World Cup, yes,
we had the under 17 qualifiers, and we had the Nations Cup coming up. So FIFA didn't want to act rashly, so they sent
a letter,
underground message. This has got to stop. This is what we want. So to avert that, the secretary to the federal government called a meeting of all parties and said, look, we've got to sort this out amicably. It can't get into a public spat that will affect incur the wrath of FIFA. So they had that meeting, and certain things were agreed. One of the major things was that Megari will not run for election again, because it's an unwritten rule. You can't be NFF president back to back. Nobody has ever done it. So we all knew it wasn't going to happen, no matter what Megari tried. So they had that meeting, and it was sorted out. And so that Congress, non-elective, was called for August 26. However, some guys in the Megari group who also wanted to remain in power, as also knowing, they had realized that, look, it's this Congress that had the power to do and undo. That was why in the 4-year tenure, while Ogunjobi was working from the outside, Megari was also carrying along everybody that's Congress. That's why every trip they go. In fact, almost all of them were at the World Cup. Every trip, they always find a way to compensate them, to give them freebies, as it were, to keep them on the side of the man in power, which was Aminu Megari. So they also knew that Congress was not that would decide. So after that meeting with the secretary to the federal government, where all the parties were present, and we had an agreement. They had their own private meeting and said, look, once we get to this Congress, let us surprise them and introduce new elements. Now, it was that leaked out to the minister, that if that Congress will hold, they will come up with things that you cannot control. And once the Congress comes up with those decisions, they will send a letter to FIFA, and it will be binding.
Yes.
And so in order to counteract that, the minister decided to act fast. So he also decided that morning, as soon as they are gathering for Congress, the key actors, the security engineers simply picked them up and took them out of the equation.
Okay.
That was what happened. And so when that happened, those who didn't know what was going on decided to hold their own Congress by the roadside. You know,
yes, it was under the tree.
Exactly. There was some held under the tree. There was some, so while they were holding their own Congress under the tree, the minister pushed through an election
that brought in Chris Giwa.
He pushed through an election that brought in Chris Giwa. Then later that evening, when the whole Congress had heard what had transpired, they were caught between two minds. Now, okay, Begari, you had done this to us. This wasn't what was agreed. How do we recover from this? That's why they held another Congress at the Bentley Hotel that night. Now, with the Begari saying, "Look, I'm not." Although Begari wasn't at that meeting because he was still with the people that were hosting him. That's okay. This is not what we are going to do. They now held a proper Congress dissolving the Megari executive. That was when the letter of resignation now showed up.
Yes.
Megari had written when they had the agreement.
Okay. Because I was wondering when people said Aminu Megari has resigned. When did he resign? When did that letter show?
When they had that meeting with the Secretary of the State Government, they made him sign a letter dated that day that he was not going to contest an election. So when they now tried to wriggle himself back into the equation, they simply
brought the letter
out after look, he had resigned. So the Bentley Congress met, they dissolved the old executive committee and now try to do things the proper way that should have been done in the morning before the Megari agenda was brought into play.
Okay, so now Chris Giwa has vacated office. We know Aminu Megari is back in office, and they're saying that they're going to hold another Congress on the 20th, and then on the 30th would be the elections. Who are the major candidates now? Who are the favorites to win this? Because Chris Giwa is obviously out of this equation.
Yeah,
I think he has sullied his whatever good name he had prior to this event. So who else? Who are the major contenders? I think
the thing is, Chris Giwa will seem to be out of the equation. But if the federal government wants him, so the major sponsors of football, they'll find a way to accommodate him. Although whether they want him after all this is what we don't know yet. Okay. However, I know for sure that as at the last count, it's between Amazi Uchegbulam and Chief Taiwo Oguntuyi.
Not again.
There's another factor. There's a curveball. Remember that the Congress was first said said it will hold in Port Harcourt, and they said it's hold in Abuja.
Now it's holding
to
Amaju Pinnick Center. Worry.
And once you move the Congress to the home state of a contestant,
anything can happen.
Anything can happen. Because the thing about the Congress of the NFF is that sometimes it looks as if it goes to the highest bidder.
Sometimes.
or they say it goes to the highest bidder, and you know that Delta, the government,
money.
The government is backing Amaju Pinnick.
Yes,
there has been news conferences and people saying they want Amaju Pinnick, and so it's looking like it might be Amaju Pinnick. Because you know he came in from left field.
Yes,
he didn't know he was interested until
the whole chaos.
Suddenly it was like, hey, I'm the man for it, and then we are looking like, okay, but now that the Congress is going to Delta State, anything can happen.
So that's where we are now with the NFF. So we've heard about the three contenders, the major contenders. Let's leave the drama of the NFF now. We are pausing because they've also paused. Let's move on to the Super Eagles. 3-2 lost to Congo Brazzaville in Calabar, our sacred ground. And then we go to South Africa, and the boys that we beat regularly. I mean, if Nigeria was having a bad day, just give them South Africa, they'll beat them and feel fine. But even on this day, they couldn't beat South Africa. Not only could they not beat South Africa, South Africa almost scored us during the 9 minutes of that game with those chances that they had. What is going to happen to Nigeria now? We are placed third on the table, 1 point, minus 1 goal difference. Congo looking good, they are on 6 points. South Africa looking good. What are our chances?
I always felt after that Congo game that the Eagles just needed to avoid a loss in South Africa to be safe. Because if we had lost to South Africa, then the two teams will have 6 points in the group, and two teams will have 6 points.
Yes.
Now, South Africa have 4 points now, and they play Congo back to back.
Yes.
We play Sudan
Back to back.
We still need to get out to get the job done. We have to defeat Congo home and Sudan home and away. So we move to 7 points. Now, I don't see South Africa defeating Congo, even if they do. Because those two, they're going to cancel
each other out. Yes.
So I'm thinking, beat Sudan back to back, go to Congo, avoid
a loss.
And then South Africa comes to Calabar
and then beat them.
Needing to get a point. Ensure they don't get it.
That's what they need to do.
Now, as to what happened in South Africa during that game on Wednesday, it's simple. What Sheikh Mashaba did was that he just jiggled the team. He brought in young players. They are fast. They can hold the ball. They don't have the fear factor of Nigeria, and they have a coach who believes. You see everything Sheikh Mashaba has done in South Africa. Football is revered. It's like a mini god in their football. And the man says, "Look, this is how we beat Nigeria." He laid out his tactics perfectly well. After the game, I had the boss say, "Look, we told them they don't just do anything fancy in a half. Get the ball into the half, then let's start doing the fancy stuff."
Yes.
And just they're a bit nervous. They lost the first game. They don't want to lose here.
So their confidence was really low.
So they had their game plan, and that's what I said to people. The Eagles didn't win this match. They didn't play too well, but hey, they came against a coach that took the fear factor out of his team. That's what we should have done. Our coach got there on Tuesday.
Yes, on Tuesday morning for a match we're going to play on Wednesday.
Yes, it was with them on Saturday for a game that they lost.
Exactly.
And I keep insisting, we need to have a proper psychologist with our players. Every big team in Europe, all national teams have psychologists that prep them for matches. This kind of game, I was reading on one portal that the coach came in on Tuesday and he called a meeting and lambasted everybody. The hairdryer works at halftime.
Yes, not the day before the game.
Because now they have the night to still think about it, to put it in their minds.
And it will set in their minds and affect their psyche.
So they had a day and a half to think about what the coach said. So for me, we need a proper psychologist. The South Africans had their game plan down to a T, and the coach said, "Look, I told them they have Musa on the team. He's the fastest person. One closes down the space, one picks up the loose ball."
Yes, that worked for Musa. He was really quiet.
It worked. What I expected our coach to have done was to have moved him from the wing into central place.
Yes.
Just let us keep their pieces moving. Since they have 2 men on him, drag them out of position. But we didn't see that. But hey, those are tactics. The coach knows what he's doing. But however, I think they got the point, which is what I wanted from them. Not a win. They was looking for a win. He might get sucked in and get hit by a counter.
Yes.
See the goal.
And that was it.
And everything turns on its head. So they got the point. I think they're okay.
Okay. So that's it for Tega'S Corner today. You can hear the intellectual was talking about concerning the Nigerian Super Eagles. Remember, next week, send your tweets to @Tega'Supreme and your emails to tonojafe@gmail.com. This is Tega'S Corner, and I am Tega.